Good afternoon. I'm Baltimore County Executive Kamenetz, and with me is Chief Jim Johnson. Before we start, I just want to obviously recognize this has been a horrific weekend, and like everyone else across the country, our thoughts and prayers are for the families in Newtown, Connecticut. Today I have issued an open letter to all of our Maryland federal and state elected officials, and I'm going to read you the letter, and after that Chief Johnson will have some comments. My wife cried last night watching the news on TV. She cried the day before, and it has been 3 days now since we spent the entire afternoon with our eyes glued on the TV screen, just like we did on 9/11. But this time I wanted to do something more. You see, I write this letter not just as the county executive of Maryland's third largest county, but also as the father of 2 young boys. Like the parents in Newtown, I send them to school each morning filled with hopes and dreams, and with the belief that they will be safe and secure and arrive home every afternoon to share the ups and downs of their day with Mom and Dad. For many families in Connecticut, such a dream was shattered this past Friday. Police Chief Jim Johnson and I talk a lot about gun safety. We talked even more after a 15-year-old Perry Hall boy shot a student on the first day of school, and a Stemmers Run boy brought in a weapon in the second week of school. I tend to blame the family members who allowed disturbed children to have access to weapons. And I tend to partially blame the Newtown tragedy on the killer's mother for allowing him to have access to weapons. But then I realized, why does any person need access to assault weapons and high-capacity magazines? These are weapons of war, not for personal use. The Chief and I fully recognize that there are no easy answers as to why this tragic pattern is being repeated with more and more regularity across America. Some point to the need for more treatment for mental illness. Others cite violent images in the media and the increasing violence of video games. Many talk about the need for families to reconnect at the dinner table. Indeed, we need to take a comprehensive look at all of these cultural issues, but if we are to be courageous in responding to those repeated tragedies, we must take immediate action to pursue reasonable gun safety legislation, not only in our state but in our nation. And I am prepared to help each of these elected officials to make this important case. Let's make something clear right from the beginning. Such a discussion is not an assault on the Second Amendment. It's an assault on assault weapons. The Founding Fathers granted Americans the right to bear arms, but like other rights in the Constitution, that right is not absolute and is subject to reasonable limits. Law-abiding citizens who enjoy hunting, target shooting, or feel the need to have a gun to protect their families have nothing to fear from legislation that stops the sale of high-capacity assault weapons. The Newtown experience requires a new attitude about gun violence. I encourage our state and federal elected officials to take immediate action to accomplish 3 things. Number 1, stop allowing exceptions to national background checks. Number 2, stop the sale of military-grade assault weapons that can outgun our police officers. And 3, stop the sale of high-capacity magazines of more than 10 rounds. Chief Johnson is the chair of the National Law Enforcement Partnership to Prevent Gun Violence. This coalition of law enforcement experts recommends strengthening of background checks and a review of laws pertaining to assault rifles and high-capacity weapons. I support their efforts. And I say to all owners of firearms, know that in Baltimore County, we will aggressively arrest and prosecute those who fail to properly secure their weapons in their own homes. I've also requested a review of police security procedures for all of our Baltimore County public schools, and the Chief will be working with Superintendent Dance to make specific recommendations to me in the next few months. The people of Baltimore County and people all across the nation should not have access to weapons of war. An assault rifle used to battle the Taliban has no place in Towson, Catonsville, or Dundalk. In our wildest dreams, it is impossible to imagine that the right to bear arms would mean that citizens could walk the streets with assault rifles that are issued to soldiers on the battlefield, or weapons that utilize high-capacity magazines. This is not the time to be timid. This is the time for people of goodwill to come forward and be courageous. I am prepared to make this case with you all across Baltimore County. We cannot sit by and do nothing. The families of more than 100,000 school children in Baltimore County deserve better. They have a right to know that their elected officials are prepared to say, enough is enough. Chief Johnson.
Thank you, County Executive. As the County Exec has stated, in addition to being Chief of Police for Baltimore County, I do in fact chair the National Law Enforcement Partnership to Prevent Gun Violence. I've been a member of this committee for 3 years now. The partnership is comprised of numerous groups like the International Association Chiefs of Police, major city chiefs that represent over 60 million citizens across America today, the Police Executive Research Forum, and many others. My group, I, like the rest of the nation, we're deeply troubled by the horrific shootings in Newtown, Connecticut. It goes beyond that, though. Like most Americans, I've watched unfold in Oregon, in Wisconsin, and Denver, and Arizona, horrific mass shootings. We do not know all the facts about Connecticut, and there are many talented, dedicated people working on that investigation up north. Here's what we do know. Gun violence is a public health epidemic. A public health epidemic is impacting each and every one of us. Citizens in Essex, families in Wilkins, businesses in Cockeysville. It impacts each and every one of us. Laws in Ohio and Pennsylvania impact Hunt Valley. And I'll get to the point. Last year, for example, for the first time in over 14 years, guns were the leading cause of deaths of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. Not car accidents, guns. Just within the last several days across America, officers have lost their lives in Tennessee and other states in the South. And in Baltimore County, 2 police officers shot within the last several weeks. In fact, PERF, the Police Executive Research Forum, considered a leading academic organization, and a study that I have great confidence in, has reported in just 6 cities across America within the last year, the cost of gun violence over $38 million. It is time for lawmakers to act. We need background checks for all gun purchasers. Right now, federal law requires a check if you buy a gun from a licensed dealer. But did you know that over 40% of guns are not sold through dealers. They're private transactions, sold at gun shows and internet sales and classified ads. You can check Craigslist today and find them. No check is required under federal law. This is like allowing 40% of people traveling on our airlines to go through airport security checkpoints, 40%, without being stopped. Would we allow that? Maryland law does require, under certain circumstances and conditions, background checks for non-dealer sales. However, this can be bypassed, and is each and every day, by purchasing guns outside the state of Maryland through internet sales or other state transactions. Background checks do work. In fact, they stopped nearly 2 million prohibited purchases from federally licensed dealers between 1994, when the Brady Law took effect, and 2009, according to the Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Statistics. Imagine the tragedies if nearly 2 million of those sales were allowed to occur. And imagine all the tragedies that we could prevent if we applied background checks on the other 40% of sales that occurred nationally. The tragedy that occurred in Brookfield, Wisconsin, for example, in October, could have been prevented if we had a national law in place. That purchaser was prohibited by law from possessing a gun. However, he bought it outside a licensed dealer. A 2009 study conducted by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms revealed that nearly 30% of guns recovered at crime scenes had been purchased across state lines nationally. It shows we have these guns moving from state to state. They go outside the state of Maryland in many circumstances. We need national uniformity to stop prohibited purchases. We also need a limit on high-capacity ammunition magazines. No more than 10 rounds. No more than 10 rounds. We had this law in America under the Crime Bill in 1994, set in 2004. We had this. But today, 40, 30, 50, 100 round magazines, and we are the good guys. They're sitting in our living rooms today, all across our county. It's time to act. There should be no more excuses. The 1968 Gun Control Act prohibits anyone from possessing a firearm if they're a convicted felon, under indictment, a fugitive from justice, unlawful user, addicted to any controlled substance, adjudicated as a mental defective, or committed to a mental institution. And there are several other restrictions. The Brady Law, which became effective in 1994, established enforcement mechanisms for the gun control acts that were unfolded in 1968. Much has happened across this nation, but we've gone the opposite way the last 15 years. Gun violence is absolutely taking its toll all across America today. All the while, we know that recent studies that have been conducted in 2012 and 2011. This is an important fact, I think, for your viewers. Over 82% of gun owners favor complete background checks. We know, via recent polls, 74% of NRA members support background checks. We know that 86% of Americans polled in a national poll within the last 12 months support complete background checks. Many families are home and today at work, and at church, and other functions, holiday functions, and I heard it over the weekend. What can we do? What can we do? We're powerless. We can't. What can we do? I believe that we all, as a society, must step forward, as the county executive has stated. There's a lot we can do.